The Sommelier's Bitter Vintage, a sensory mystery for expanding descriptive English adjectives. Hello and welcome to Mumtahina's English Academy. I'm delighted you're here. Today, we'll explore a fascinating mystery while improving your English naturally through storytelling. Listen carefully, discover new vocabulary, and enjoy the journey. If you love learning English through stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us. The Sommelier's Bitter Vintage. The cellar lay beneath the oldest wing of the estate, hidden behind a warped oak door swollen by decades of moisture. As I descended the narrow stone staircase, the air grew heavier with every step. The atmosphere was damp, stagnant, and oppressive. A cold scent of wet earth clung to the walls, mingling with the musty odor of rotting wood. At the center of the subterranean vault stood a single bottle resting inside a dust-covered cradle. Its faded label bore the year 1945. Most collectors would have considered it a treasure. Tonight, it looked more like evidence. The bottle carried a troubled history. Generations of owners had spoken of it in hushed voices. Some claimed it was the estate's greatest vintage. Others insisted it concealed a scandal buried deeper than the cellar itself. As a sommelier, I had come expecting a rare celebration of craftsmanship. Yet the brittle cork and stained glass suggested something different. The bottle seemed less like a masterpiece and more like a survivor of neglect. Before the first pour, I felt an unsettling certainty that this vintage would tell a story of ruin rather than triumph. The cork emerged with a weak, lifeless sigh. When the wine flowed into the glass, disappointment appeared immediately. Instead of a rich ruby-red brilliance, the liquid was cloudy and amber-colored. Its appearance was dull, murky, and exhausted. I swirled the glass gently, watching sluggish streaks crawl down the sides. The wine seemed tired, as though decades of decay had drained away its vitality. I raised the glass and took a cautious sip. The reaction was immediate. The wine struck the palate with an abrasive force that made my mouth tighten. Its texture was biting, corrosive, and aggressively astringent. Rather than unfolding gracefully, the flavors attacked in sharp, jagged waves. The sensation was so puckering that it felt as though the wine were attempting to erase itself from memory. This was not the elegant complexity expected from a historic vintage. It was the harsh signature of chemical breakdown. Then came the aroma. At first, there was only a faint mustiness, subtle enough to encourage hope, but the illusion quickly shattered. A pungent wave of odor rose from the glass, carrying notes of mold, rust, and something strangely medicinal. The bouquet grew increasingly offensive with every breath. It was putrid, fermented, and acrid. Beneath the damp earth character lurked a sharp metallic tang, as though old coins had been dissolved into the liquid. The smell was so unsettling that it felt intentional, almost like a warning left behind by someone who knew the bottle's fate. I examined the cellar more carefully. Water stains streaked the stone walls. Corroded pipes hung overhead. The clues pointed toward decades of environmental sabotage. Perhaps the bottle had not simply aged poorly. Perhaps it had been abandoned deliberately. The metallic scent suddenly seemed less like a flaw and more like evidence. The vintage had suffered years of contamination, trapped in conditions that slowly transformed excellence into failure. Another sip revealed new layers of deterioration. The mouthfeel was jagged and uneven. The wine coated my tongue with a cloying film that refused to disappear. It felt viscous in some moments, watery in others. The texture shifted unpredictably, like a story full of contradictions. Notes of leather emerged briefly before sinking into a silty, unpleasant finish. Every sensation reinforced the same conclusion. The wine had become a distorted shadow of its former self. Yet the deeper mystery was not the wine itself, it was the deception surrounding it. For years, collectors had praised this vintage without tasting it. Auction catalogs described it as legendary. Experts repeated the same glowing descriptions until they hardened into accepted truth. The bottle's reputation had become more valuable than its reality. Standing alone in that cellar, I realized I was not merely evaluating a wine. I was uncovering a fraud sustained by prestige, assumption, and silence. I set down the glass and gathered my observations. The appearance was cloudy and lifeless. The palate was abrasive, biting, and corrosive. The aroma was pungent, acrid, putrid, and metallic. The texture was viscous, leathery, silty, and cloying. Together, these adjectives formed a precise portrait of collapse. What others dismissed as a ruined bottle became, through language, a detailed sensory narrative. The mystery of the 1945 vintage was finally solved. It was not a forgotten masterpiece. It was a monument to neglect. Yet, in its failure, it offered something unexpectedly valuable. Every unpleasant note became an opportunity to sharpen perception. Every offensive aroma expanded vocabulary. Every bitter sensation transformed into a lesson in descriptive precision. As I left the cellar, the damp air seemed less oppressive than before. The wine had failed as a vintage, but it had succeeded as a teacher. Its acrid secrets, metallic betrayals, and jagged textures revealed a simple truth. Even disappointment can become extraordinary when described with the right words, and sometimes the richest lessons are hidden not in perfection, but in the bitter taste of decay.